Like we do too much of that,
And to
right?
this piece about like body shame or having a negative body image or having even appearance anxiety, any of those things, I like to always think about what is the function, right? So we have all of these social structures that we interact with, we bump up against. They shape our lives and how we move and navigate the world. And I always like to think about what is the function of them. And at the end of the day, this framework to connect our physical appearance with our internal self-worth, the function is a distraction. Fundamentally, it's a ruse. Because while you're dealing with all of this internalized body shame or trying to work through it, and I'm not trivializing if that's true or real for you, but at the end of the day, all it does is allow structures and powers that be to have control over your life in a way that disempowers you from actually living your best life and moving towards a sense of freedom and self-love and self-acceptance.
Ashe,
It's a
ashe,
real distraction.
ashe.
And I'm preaching to myself as much as I am to anybody else listening. And that is, so for me, this thing about the pieces about body positivity that I do take away from the idea and the movement is that I recognize that my body has changed over my lifetime and will continue to change. And I only get the one. And so I have to be really careful about what I do with it and how I respond to it and what it can do for me. And so my body today in 2018 is very different than the body it was 10 years ago. And I find myself, falling into like this internal conversation around, oh, I can't wear that top anymore. Oh, I remember that picture when I used to be able to do that. Oh, I remember those, heels that I used to be able to wear, da, da, da. And I have to have the internal conversation to check myself. Because none of that is really relevant to how I show up in the world. Am I being the best woman I can be for myself? Am I being the best mother I can be for Asha? Am I being a loving and compassionate human being out in the world? Am I using my platform and the status that I have as a PhD holding person to uplift and celebrate and help heal Black people in specific, people of color and women? Those are the things that are important to me. Am I finding time in my life every day to be grateful, to connect with spirit, to celebrate life and find joy? Those are the things that are important. And none of those things are easily tangible. None of those things are hanging up in my closet. None of those things are in the mirror, right? And while I do think that how you present yourself in the world with pride and with attention to your physical body is oftentimes a reflection of how you feel about yourself, I also feel like that can't be the majority of what drives what's important to you, how you identify your worth, and how you move throughout the world about yourself.
And it absolutely shouldn't be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be about trying to fit into a certain dress size or do this or do that. You know, back in the day when I did personal training regularly, I would have people come to me and say, we have a wedding coming up and I've got this wedding dress and I need to fit in it. And right now I'm a size 4 and I need to be a size 2 in the next 6 weeks. Okay. And then we'd have conversations about food and this and that. And I'd tell them what that entails in order to do that. And it turns out that they didn't need to be a size 2. They just need to get a seamstress to take that dress out a little bit because they weren't willing to do what needed to be done. Right. I bring that analogy into because I want to read here from Wikipedia the definition of body positive. And the disclaimer I'll say is, you know, Wikipedia is done by volunteers who commit their time to keeping this up to date. All right. So this definition exists today. It may be different next week. Right. But we'll read it here. The body positive movement is a movement that encourages people to adopt more forgiving and affirming attitudes towards their bodies with the goal of improving overall health and well-being. It also focuses on challenging the structures that interrupt a partnering relationship with one's body, like racism and the media idealization of certain bodies, fashion industry, diet, etc., 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 and it goes on. Cool. Mm-hmm. Great. It's perfect, right? There are two things that I want to bring up, and one is a tie-in to the show that we had before about taking care of yourself, our show, or your show, Luxuriate.
Luxuriate.
Body positivity is not about acceptance without a focus on health. Mm-hmm. Body positivity includes that. Focusing on your health does not mean getting a gym membership. Focusing on your health is just that. Mental, physical, spiritual. So I think one of the issues I have with body positivity is today, I'm about to, I'm about to. Today, it is used as a catch-all, be-all for me to just do whatever the hell I want to do with no regard to my own health, mental, physical, spiritual.
Right.
So I'm going to walk down the street and I'm going to have a muffin top and I'm going to eat a muffin. And I'm going to do all of this. I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm not going to drink enough water. I'm not, just little things like that. I have no spiritual connection, no foundation to anything other than me. And I'm wrapped in my little narcissistic bubble of I am the beep, right?
But what if I got but I can't be body positive and have a muffin top? Like, what if I got a muffin top?
You can have a muffin top if you were doing the things.
What if I got back fat?
If you can have all of that. If you are doing things to make sure that your health is taken care of. Because this is the other thing that people don't get. I know people who are size 16 who are healthier than people who are size 2. Size is not the issue. Muffin top is not the issue. It's you resting in that and saying, F it. I'm just going to go ahead on and be this because this is who I am, and deluding yourself into thinking that it's positivity. That's not positivity. That's complacency. That's defeat. Real self-acceptance is, let me look at some of the things that I can do. You know what? I really want that red velvet cake because I'm all about a red velvet cake. But the cream cheese on top of that is going to send my blood sugar off the chart. So you know what? I'm not going to have that red velvet cake today.
And let me add another layer. Because sometimes I do eat the red velvet cake.
Some days I do.
And
I do be eating me some red velvet cake. Too.
You stay snacking. I know that.
Don't worry about my snacks. Don't worry about it. Don't put some things I share. A lot of things I don't. Don't put my snacks in the street.
Talila, what you eating? This is a homemade honey wheat.
You better understand. And
with a fresh apricot jam that I
to that point. But can we talk about that though, just real quick, and then I'll let you make your point. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
What you just said. This is a homemade honey wheat. This is an apricot this. One of the ways I maintain my body positivity and focus on my health is I don't go out and put a lot of preservatives in my body. I don't need food that's going to be sitting up in my refrigerator for 3 months and still be good. Like, that's not how food should be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I know.
So I do make a lot of my own. I make my own strawberry jam. I don't use sugar. I use agave nectar because it helps with my glycemic index. I use peanut oils, coconut oils, and sunflower seed oils when I cook, saute. I don't fry a lot of foods. These are healthier choices.
But this is the other part about it, body positivity. Because this is where I am in it. I don't always make the best choice. And so I could either I could very easily get into a very negative internal mentality and cycle of saying, you had another bad day. You know, you shouldn't have had that red velvet, whatever. I'm not really big on red velvet. What would I do? Dark chocolate. You shouldn't have had those. You should have, the handful of almonds
didn't. For your heart, though.
Right. The handful of almonds didn't need to be the handful of dark chocolate covered almonds, right?
With the bottle of wine. But continue.
Right. Or a big thing for me, and these are real examples for me. A big thing for me is I'll look up and it's Saturday, and 4 days out of the week we've had dinner out. Right. And the moment we have dinner out, I know even if we're making quote unquote healthier choices in what we do, there's still going to be high sodium.
Right. And that's the key. That's the key. The sodium in these places it's just, it's ridiculous. You're right.
And so I can really get in so then that adds on a whole another layer of and you're a bad mom. Like, what are you doing for her palate and how are you training her to be in touch with her body and make healthy choices for her body, et cetera, et cetera. And I can get really easy into being negative about that. And that's why you're not going to be able to fit those pants you wanted to wear because you're going to be all bloated, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? The body positivity and the way it shows up for me is taking a moment to catch my internal breath, to then take a moment and do some real physical cleansing breath to say, this is where you are right now. This is not where you have to stay. And be okay with where you are right now. Recognize that you could have made some better choices and you didn't. And there are some real reasons for that, and there are probably some excuses for that. Right. But me beating myself up about it isn't going to move me forward in any way, in any direction that I want to go in.
And this is why I stay away from forgiveness and move to acceptance, acknowledgement. Because I think with forgiveness sometimes, I guess maybe it's, and I'll own the fact that it's my personal problem with mea culpas. People do things all the time. They run out, they say racist stuff, sexist stuff. They'll do things, and then it's like, I'm sorry. But you really feel that way because that was like a real specific disrespectful thing you said.
Did you say it right?
And now you're sorry? I wasn't thinking right. No, you actually, that was well thought out what you said, right? So
it was wrong thought, but it wasn't
right. Exactly. Right. My concern with listening to what you said, and okay, so I'll just go on and say this also. Some people who, like, and some of our friends know, but a lot of the listeners don't know, that on the side I also do a little bit of life coaching. So if you came to me and you were a wellness client and you said what you just said, the one thing I would steer you away from is feeling bad about it. Because oftentimes I found, and I know that you can speak to this more as a psychologist, when people feel bad about something and they don't have a catalyst to move forward, they sort of sit in that place and they just stay there.
Yeah.
And there's no motivation to get up and get going and move on.
Get on up,
right?
Get on up.
So how I'll do, you better do it. You better do James Brown. So what I say with my life coaching clients or my wellness clients, what I'll say is, okay, so you did such and such and such. And, well, I shouldn't have done it because da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But you did it. And What do you want to do now?
Right.
And when you ask that question to people,